If you read the Christmas story, what you will read is a story with far less of Christ in it than you might expect. There is about one line in it about the birth of Christ, really. And the rest of it, the rest of the Christmas story, is a story about other people. About other people who, while doing all sorts of things with no obvious religious significance, found themselves drawn to Christ and to Christ's service, even so, and even in spite of themselves. No one woke up that morning thinking they were about to be immortalized in a nativity scene. Mary was not shining her halo when an angel first appeared to her. And how many nights had Joseph awoken from a dream in which he'd stood up in front of everyone in the synagogue only to look down and realize he was in his underpants before he dreamed the one dream that would change his life forever. The shepherds were not saying their prayers when the sky started singing to them. There was only the stars and the silence until there wasn't. And Caesar Augustus' schemes were not God's plans, except then they were. And the poor innkeeper, how could he ever have known that he would go down in history as a heartless Grinch for doing nothing more and nothing less than his job? How could he ever have known that the teenage girl with the fingernails bitten down to the quick was pregnant with God? In the Christmas story, the whole world is pregnant with God. A holiness that was always there, hidden, but moving beneath things. That holiness strained against the routine ordinariness of life until it broke through and caught everyone unaware. People were surprised and undone by angels and miracles, guided and thwarted by an unbidden grace, and changed by a mysterious, magnetic presence which made itself felt in a time and in a place and in a way that no one seemed ever to have thought to expect. Christmas happened for these people. Christ happened for these people in the ordinary course of their ordinary lives. How much had any of them ever really thought about God before? How regularly did they attend church? Were they the types to stop and smell the roses, or did they hurry along through their days like everyone else? Why them? Why then? There is no reason to believe that they were especially pious or pure, that they were religious or reflective or ready or worthy. There is no reason to believe that they understood what was going on any more than the sheep or the oxen understood what was going on when they sensed God as they might sense wolves prowling in the woods, when they felt God in the air and in their animal bodies and bowed down in praise. And I can only imagine that there was among the shepherds at least one who did not stand before the mystery of the manger with his heart broken open as wonder washed over him. I can only imagine that there was at least one who was thinking only of how much work it was going to be to find all the sheep that had wandered off into the hills spooked by the angels. Or one who was, say, not an especially sentimental man, who thought, you've seen one baby, you've seen them all. Or the village rationalist, maybe, who thought, I don't feel what I think I'm supposed to feel. I don't feel what everyone else here feels. Who worried, is what I feel enough? For that one who didn't feel God in the air, but only the chill. And still, it's true. Christmas happened for him, and Christ happened for him. The quiet hum of holiness within everything and within everyone was, as it still is, so constant and so gentle that he heard it without hearing it and felt it without feeling it. And even when it strained against the ordinary reality of his life and erupted, even when he experienced the surprise that God is, and the surprise that grace is, which by all accounts should have left him changed, so that nothing, not work, not love, not worry, not sorrow, so that nothing for him would ever be merely ordinary again. Even then, he didn't know the extent of what he knew. But so what? Isn't this how Christmas always happens? And isn't this how Christ always happens? We never actually see it coming. We never know the full measure of the grace we are being given. At best, maybe, while we are caught up in other things, and rarely in response to anything religious, there are these moments when we feel more than we knew we could feel, when we feel ourselves being drawn to something huge and good and generous. When we sense that somehow we are a part of it and that it is a part of us. And there is nothing to say, and there is nothing to know, and there is nothing to do but kneel before it. The carol we sing as O Holy Night, it originated as a French aria entitled Midnight Christians. And the French lyrics, translated into English literally, they call worshipers to, quote, jump for joy and stand to sing. Which, of course, is all wrong. The only thing to do is fall on your knees. This line is sung as a command which addresses itself to us without threat or argument or explanation, but with a majesty that compels surrender and compels obedience, even though it doesn't feel quite like obedience, because it is from deep in our own hearts, from beneath any understanding or not understanding, that this urge and this longing to kneel arises. Fall on your knees. Not stoop down, gently, carefully lowering yourself, but fall and feel the release of being moved by the gravitational pull that is God into a posture, an inner posture of reverent abandon and humility. If only on this one night, on this holy night, fall on your knees before the mystery of mysteries, before the one whose grace poured out in our world and in our lives works both as triumphantly as an angel choir and as quietly as a silent night.